Hailing you, hailing us from the USS Spacebook, it's time to tease your tardigrade and engage your warp drive for this episode of our YouTube exclusive, raw, unfiltered, as live Star Trek video podcast. We are back again. Who'd have thought it? Yes, just like the crew of the Discovery, we're back, breaking the ice. It's actually quite cold as I'm recording this. Different time of day to usual, but no, I'm fine. I can feel my thrusters gradually working up. Where are we? We've got the team on standby, our away team or home team. Yeah, it's the home team, of course it is. And yes, you're there waiting, no doubt. Get those comments ready. And we'll hit you with some Star Trek, a good hour or so, concentrated Star Trek from across the generations and across the Earth. We are cross-continental, as always, this time for news, views, and reviews from the final frontier with me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. Let's start with Warp Drive's very own Badmiral. I suppose you could say it's from section 33 and 3/4. It can only be the rabbi from another planet.
Why the evil one? How did that happen? How am I the representation of corruption and stuff? Well, I guess so. Okay, fine. Okay, I talked myself into it. Now I completely understand. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I would, I would corrupt systems for my own personal benefit. That's true.
That's the quickest therapy I've ever conducted. Work ourselves.
I went from denial to acceptance pretty quickly. That's a sign of good mental health.
How are we this week?
We're very well. Again, unfortunately, we have this Alex Kurtzman Star Trek still going on, still horribly savaging, the corpse of a beloved, a beloved cornerstone of my life. But listen, I am optimistic. There are going to be some in the panel that disagree with me this week and actually quite liked it.
Well, you could be right. I've got some good news for you, though, Rabbi, because we are, after all this concentrated Star Trek, like 23 solid weeks of new Star Trek, we are now past the half. We're now past the halfway point with Lower Decks and Discovery. So, yes.
But they took it. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, I'm hoping for a global economic collapse so they don't make season 4. I mean, we're really up to that point now that I really want society to end.
That could be seen by some as quite drastic.
Well, listen, these must with the devil drives, but it's just where we are. What can we do?
What would Gene Roddenberry say? Let's find out. Let's ask an expert. Let's check in with the man from Let's See What's Out There. It can only be Captain Keith Isles back on deck this week. Hello, Keith.
Hey, there you go. Sorry. Can you see it on the thing? in universe merchandise, it doesn't say Star Trek anywhere on it apart from the label inside. There you go.
Is that what they wore when they were doing that run around the ship?
It is. Yeah,
is that when they turn the lights on and off for no reason, and and Tilly beat everyone somehow.
Yeah, that classic. Yeah,
absolutely extraordinary. I quite like those, but it's official merchandise. You say, yeah, absolutely sure. Just in case Alex is watching, we know he loves the show. But you've not just brought some new attire this time. You've brought a friend along, haven't you?
I have. Yes, so, I'm pleased to have my co-host joining us from the US, Pete Mealy from Let's See What's Out There.
Good stuff.
So sorry, were you supposed to do that? I'm sorry.
No. We were doing the back and forth thing. Yes. No, and I'm about to beam him aboard now, but I thought it was only polite for you to introduce him. Yes, Pete, for anybody who hasn't heard, Let's See What's Out There. There will be links in the description to the show, as always. But here he is, bringing aboard Pete Mealy.
Hey, how's it going?
Coming in with the
right.
They don't do what they're supposed to do.
You've got to do something with the name Keith and Pete. Pete and Keith Star Trek. That's a great it's got good bounce off your tongue. Keith and Pete. It's not like that. Like Pete and Doug. I like that.
On the phone, my name is most commonly mispronounced as Keith. People think I say Keith on the phone when I say Pete. So I think,
there you go.
It's very close to just being a Keith and Keith podcast here.
I have it on good authority, Pete, that you've gone one better than our friend Keith there with just the T-shirt, and you've actually had Star Trek regalia committed to your own person.
Yeah, look at that.
I
On the
have a
guns.
little tattoo. Yeah, I mean guns.
Hey,
But yeah,
well, listen, I mean is at least unquestionably Star Trek, right? There's nobody going to say that doesn't really feel very Star Trek-y to me. I mean, if you're going to get that, I understand putting on your body, like literally onto your skin. I think that's the way you got to go.
I think
Could you imagine without this show coming out that you really you were so excited, you got a Michael Burnham tattoo, and then you didn't like it? What would you do? Oh my God, who would you turn that into? You have to turn it into a Darth Vader or something.
No, you got to give it time.
Wow.
That's why I don't have a Game of Thrones tattoo. You have to wait.
Smart man. Come on.
You got to wait until the end.
So, Pete, what does Mrs. Pete think of your tattoo?
I have less tattoos than my wife.
Well, there you go. That's going to work out fine.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yes. Well, tell us a little bit, because obviously the people out there who may not have heard the podcast yet, and Keith knows you pretty well. We've just met. So tell us about where you came in with Star Trek. How long have you been watching? Clearly a long while if you're on your body.
Yeah, I mean, I got the tattoo when I thought we would never have Star Trek on TV again.
Wow.
So 10 years ago. I started watching Star Trek very much, I think, like most people, because I'm in that age range where I only caught original series in reruns, and so I was somewhat familiar. And then I was there for the start of Next Generation, and it was event TV in my house I was 8 or 9, and then stuck with Next Generation. Although I wasn't living in the U.S. Because I travel, I didn't live in the U.S. as a kid, and so I didn't always get it regularly. Moved back to the U.S. during Deep Space Nine and Voyager years, and so but I was in high school. I was a little bit, trying to be too cool for school, so I watched sporadically. Didn't really pay attention, although I did have a very fine Star Trek card game collection. And then about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I just decided, I know that I love Star Trek. I found all of Star Trek was on Netflix, and one summer I watched everything from The Cage through to what's the last episode of Enterprise called?
All good things.
No, these are the Voyages.
These are the Voyages.
Yeah.
These are the Voyages. So I watched it. I watched it all, start to finish, in a summer. That's everything. Animated series, every single episode, and I loved it. And I was, really firmly committed back in Star Trek nerd.
That sounds a little bit like my mate Jazz. If you remember,
Yes.
Keith, he watched all the
that's
Star
what you're talking about. I thought that's because you said something watching a compressed space of time. I got to ask you, after doing a very, very compressed space of time overview, what's your favorite Star Trek?
Enterprise.
Really? That's interesting. What season? Because it makes a difference.
So I think that season 3 of Enterprise is the best serialized TV in Star Trek that you can find. Like, if you wanted to say what's the best one season of Star Trek, it is Star Trek Enterprise season 3. And that sort of starts at the end of season 2 and ends at the beginning of season 4. But if you just look at season 3 of Star Trek, it tells a cohesive story, and it tells a cohesive Star Trek story.
For me, my favorite season would be season 4, because I love those 3-episode arcs. I kind of like how they knitted things. People hated them, how they knitted things together.
Oh, I loved
Hated.
I really liked them. I like how the Klingon forehead thing happened. I thought that was kind of cool.
I thought it was awesome. I'll tell you, I think that a lot of the Star Trek Enterprise hate, and I was on Anthony Johnson's Unjustly Maligned podcast defending Star Trek Enterprise. So I'm the Star Trek Enterprise guy on that one. And I think that what boils down to with Enterprise, all the hate, it boils down to one. Season 3 was a very anti-terrorism. It out in 2002, And
Right, it was
I think
9/11.
that
It was Star Trek does 9/11, wasn't it? I mean, very, very clearly. And I think
Very
they did
clearly.
it well. I think they did it well. I think
Yeah, they
it
did,
still felt like
And-
Star Trek as well.
and at the end of that season, they make peace. They don't go out and win a war.
Good point.
They
mate.
make peace. And
Although,
I think
okay, the
that
only
people were
thing-
not
the only
ready for
thing-
that.
The only thing I was really disappointed though with that was at the end of season 2, you had the Klingons, you had the Duras family setting up to be villains, and they went in after them after going into the Zindi, and that you never saw them again. I guess they were killed by the Zindi. But like, I kind of like the idea of having that like ongoing antagonist as well.
Yeah.
But,
It was really, really strong stuff. It was if the things that they'd learnt. I know it was different creatives by that point. It was Manny Koto, wasn't it? But the things that the franchise had learned with all that connected storytelling with Deep Space Nine, they sort of refined that really. I think for those latter 2 seasons of Enterprise, really committed to mixing things up. Because things had been a little stale before, hadn't they? And Enterprise started to have its own identity, which I don't think it was compromised by the fact they lent into continuity at all. I think they played it.
No,
played the
that
strength of
got
that just fine.
stronger. That whenever they lent into continuities, when it was at its best. I love the Orion Slave Girl episode. That was freaking awesome. I love the obviously I would, but I like it because it tied into Star Trek, not just because they were gorgeous. No, I like it because it tied into Star Trek. I love the Khan prequel with Data. I thought that I loved it. Yeah, just whenever it lent into, you had the Gorn in the Mirror episode.
Mirror Universe,
whenever they let into it, that's when it was really hit its highest one. And I wish they would just do that or done that more. Just been like unashamedly, let's go and what they did with the Orions with Shran, freaking awesome. I mean, all that stuff was wonderful.
Yeah, they really fleshed out the Andorians. I think they gave a lot of background to the Andorians and Vulcans, and sort of fleshed out the Vulcan
Right, that was great.
culture.
That was great.
I
mean, I guess season 4 would have been like the Romulan War, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Season 4.
That was the plan.
Season 5. Right?
Yeah.
They had planned on a 5th season, hadn't they? Because they were going to evolve. Even the ship was going to look different. It was going to have a secondary hull and all that sort of thing. But I think it's an example of a pre. Yeah, I think it was an example of a prequel done correctly. Eventually.
Yeah, they were gonna progress the whole thing with the temporal Cold War and Future Guy and all of that sort of thing as well, to sort of tie in back to the pilot episode. But sadly, they didn't get the opportunity. So
I think I forget as well how good Scott Bakula was in that. I think actually all the Star Trek leads. I tend to forget how good they all were.
If Big Finish, who do these audio productions, have you Pete? You ever heard of them?
No.
Okay, so there's this. When Doctor Who was off the air, they did like these, like radio plays, like The Shadow from the 30s, those TV. Yeah. So they did Doctor Who, and they do great stuff. I wish they got the rights to do Star Trek, because I think they could do a Titan show. It would be freaking awesome. They could do season 5 of Enterprise. That would go.
Yeah.
They could do what's that book series? I really like that book series by Peter David.
The ones. what were they called?
Dark Frontier.
I think it was Dark Frontier.
It was, yeah.
With Captain Calhoun, and they were
New Frontier. Sorry,
New Frontier. Yeah.
New Frontier.
Those first 4 books are really, really good.
Yeah,
They did put out 3 Star Trek titles, didn't they? But I think they were kind of like the companion Chronicle ones.
They were kind of like they didn't really work. But I just think that right now, because I think fandom is I think fairly divided over current Star Trek. I mean, you have people like me who just hate it. I'm going to go into the reasons why I hate it, because this is a great episode to talk about it, right? Because there's a lot that they bring up, and a lot that I think is ostensibly quite good with this episode. Mostly the lack of Michael Burnham. When you take her off the stage, everything gets better. Like everything gets better. I was listening to a review of the first episode by your boy Zach. Great channel. And he had this one great take on the first episode where they said when they're in Iceland and they're filming, and the script said Michael Burnham erupts with emotion, and then Nico says, but what emotion? So the director would have said, just do like a bunch of them, do happy, do this. And they did that, And then they were going to work out the edit, and then they said, let's just use all of them. Let's do because she comes across like she's mentally ill. She needs medication. Like she goes around. She's always punching people in the face, and like she seems to be. Her and Mariner should be in the brig sedated. That's what I think. That would make things much better. I think that would make a lot of sense.
So, Pete, we had our say last week. I was wondering where you were with the opening episode there. Everything to bring us up to date. How you feel about Discovery up to this point?
Sure thing. So, Discovery Season 1, I was optimistic. I really liked the first couple of episodes of Discovery Season 1. And then they started going Mirror Universe, and I have a long-standing hate of the Mirror Universe. Yeah,
even with the Enterprise stuff, it was all about the Enterprise.
Look,
stuff,
it just doesn't make any sense, right? Like, it makes no sense.
Fair point.
The very first episode,
he's not wrong, is he?
The very first episode in the original series, you're like, hey, great, fixed point in time, right? And then, thank God, Next Generation never went to the Mirror Universe. DS9 used it because whatever, they had nothing else to write, I guess. And it just like all of those DS9 Mirror Universe episodes make zero sense. Like zero logical sense. Why would these people be there in this universe? And it just felt so cheap and hacky. As you can see, I get a great amount of bile.
You must have been quite disappointed then when Discovery went there so quickly.
Okay, the only way it really does make sense is there's not one mirror universe, right? There has to be a gazillion of them. So
all the mirror universes do tie together.
Because that would never happen, would it? Like, you would never get a Cisco being a Cisco counterpart. So if you get a different mirror, each episode with a mirror universe is its own mirror universe. Once you do that, it's still silly, but kind of fun. It's kind of fun. I think it's basically, you have like Brave Nog, like Nogs of Freedom, like, I loved all that. That's kind of fun.
Oh gosh!
It's a standard hokey sci-fi concept that doesn't stand up to close examination. I think we can probably all agree with that. It depends on what you do with the characters, whether you can distract the audience from that fact, as Pete's just described, whether you can distract the audience from that fact for 45 minutes and get away with it. I think that's the trick of a mirror universe.
Yeah, I think what I think is the greatest sin in Star Trek writing, and maybe in sci-fi or television writing, is ignoring the character buildup that you've already done just to put your characters where you want them for this week's episode. And that's sort of, I think, never highlighted any better than in those DS9 Mirror Universe episodes where now you need Worf in this Mirror Universe because Worf is in DS9. Right, and so bing, all of a sudden he's there.
As well, I can't remember.
What was it? Sorry.
Did they have Vic Fontaine in the Mirror Universe? I can't remember.
I don't think they had Vic. Did they?
Yeah, he was an actual character rather than a hologram. He was a person, and I can't remember what happened. I think he gets shot or something. It's been a while since I won it.
He must have been bad because he's good in the regular one.
Yeah.
Just hearing that, I must have blocked it out, and
listen. This is a bit of a Deep Space Nine cul-de-sac. That episode where Nog loses his leg and he's stuck and he won't come out the holodeck, freaking awesome. I think that's one of the best episodes they've done. Like post-traumatic stress disorder. That was really, really well done.
God, I'm impressed with your memory. I totally forgotten about that, and I'm like, good God. Yeah. So once they jettisoned all the Mirror Universe stuff, then Pete, and moved on to Series 2 of Discovery, how did you feel about that?
Yeah. So I will actually say that by the end of Season 1 of Discovery, I was on board. I thought they told a good story. So my overall impression of Season 1 was mixed, but on the positive side. Yeah. Season 2, I was excited. I thought that the writers had done a good job of telling a story and taking us on this journey of Season 1. And so I wanted to see where they would go with Season 2. And apparently they just vomited all over a bunch of paper and put it out there as like, here it is, right? And it made no sense. And by the end of Season 2, I didn't care. I could not care less. I barely watched those episodes. I watched them for completion.
I have to tell you, I think it made sense in context of what it was, which is a breathtaking display of utter hatred of everything that underpins society that Star Trek was based upon. You know, it's like this utter hatred of Western values and civilization. That which they, you know, I think they continue with the card, and it didn't really matter that it didn't necessarily, it did show itself in the actual plotting of it a little bit, but just I think it more showed itself in the lackluster storytelling of it, because the storytelling didn't matter. What was really much more important was to show that women had overthrown the evil male patriarchy, and which is false in this episode. Women had overthrown the evil male patriarchy, and now everything was better because there was no male patriarchy, even though it's a prequel to Star Trek when it's back again 10 years later. I don't know what to tell you, but that's so good storytelling, sensical storytelling that remembers plot points between episode to episode, or storytelling that remembers plot points between scene to scene. That wasn't so important. What was much more important was to show like 110-pound, 5'2" women taking out a group of 7-foot incredibly powerful men. That was the thing that was important.
Often armed.
In those terms, it succeeded fantastically because that's what it set out to do, and I think that's what this did in my mind.
I didn't get those plot points from it, as a guest, but I will say I was absolutely checked out. So the 18 months here we are, season 3, and I was, you know, coming at it. Oh, sorry.
It's like you just broke up a little bit there. I was going to say, so the 18 months in between seasons 2 and 3, you probably thought that was quite a good thing, a positive thing for them to rebuild and to reflect and to start again.
Yeah, well, I was I don't know. I think that my trust in the writers was squandered in season 2. I'd built up a lot of trust in season 1. It was wasted with season 2. But I said to myself, I have to go into season 3 with an open mind and see what they do. And so the first 5 minutes of season 3, episode 1, was painful to watch because it was showing all of the season 2 stuff.
We had that conversation. We had that conversation last week. Yeah,
it was like, I really hate all of this, and so I was like, but I kept having to say to myself, just ignore this. It'll be over in a minute, and then let them tell a new story. And after that's done, so after she blows up the magical suit, I was like, okay, now I'm watching this.
Cleansed,
and I was in. I think it's telling a good story. I like the problem that they've set up to solve for the season.
Yeah,
I think it's a really interesting problem. I think it's going to be a very Star Trek story, right? Where you know, we have to overcome chaos. We have to show our, you know, what is it that makes us rise above? What is it that is our drive to be better? And how we implement that.
I think potentially it's a little bit more, well, there's a very good reason for that, I know, but it's a little bit more Roddenberry at its core, isn't it? So we talked last week about Andromeda, didn't we, at some length, and I think that probably could be why. But it is something you can imagine Gene coming up with, because he did. Whether it is actually sort of befitting of Star Trek itself at this moment in time is the area where we're probably going to be a little bit at odds, I suspect. But yes, I enjoyed last week. Rabbi was in quite a bad way. Ian hated it so much he's timed out for the time being. He really wasn't happy.
He can't come back. He can't do it anymore. Blimey! I hear it. I do hear it.
He's away on Risa, having a long overdue holiday, being looked after. Yes, but yeah. So we really were quite choppy with it. But I do hear a lot of what you're saying. You know, I spoke at length last week how for me, after those scenes, it did feel like I was watching a completely new show, and I could approach it as I would a new show, and almost as a new viewer as well. who could decide whether he was going to emotionally commit, rather than just his eyeballs
really,
to watching the rest.
With this second episode, that's really what I tried. I sat down, I said, I got to forget that I hate everybody in this show. Like, I hate all these characters, and I hate everything they've done. I got to forget all of that, and I'm going to just imagine that it's new. And again, look, the first episode, Sonequa Martin Green, I just think I don't understand the writing or the acting choices. I think she's mentally ill. I think this character is mental. I mean, she's bipolar. She swings from this to that, and she's mentally ill. And she doesn't seem like she's fit to be a Starfleet officer. And to me,
okay. Well, let's get into it then for people out there watching. If you haven't caught it yet, this is the second episode of season 3 of Star Trek Discovery, and here's how it goes. After the USS Discovery crash lands on a strange planet, the crew finds themselves racing against time to repair their ship. Meanwhile, Saru and Tilly embark on a perilous first contact mission in hopes of finding Burnham. This one's written by Michelle Paradise again, with Jenny Lumet and Alex Kurtzman, allegedly, and directed by Alatunde Osun. Sorry, Alatunde, you know who you are. I won't more your surname anymore. Yeah, so we're right back at it. And although they've dropped the part 2 from the title this week, don't know why that is. Maybe we're going to get
that really annoyed me. That really annoyed me, because when I came to review it, I was like, and we're up to, and I looked at the episode like, what? And I thought, maybe they have part 2 of like, what was the first title? Like, Burnham, you are wonderful and everything. We all love you.
You are the hope.
That's hope. I have a theory about that, by the way.
Hope that is you. Yeah, so I figured maybe
what's your theory?
At the final part 2, it's like.
My theory is that, and looking at the titles for this season, I don't think it's going to happen this season. I think it's going to happen next season. But I think That Hope Is You Part 2 will be the year that Berman spent before Discovery turned up. And I think that we will get, whether it's a short or an episode next season, which will be That Hope Is You Part 2, and it will fill in that gap. That's my theory, because I've been wondering about this.
I think they just don't give a crap. Again, if they can't remember plot points, how are they going to remember titles? I just don't think they give a crap. I thought they're like, it's just like, what's the matter? It's just a silly spaceship show to them. That's really what I think they think. They're like, it's like people, you can't teleport. Who cares?
I think,
Rabbi. I think. I'll be honest though. I think you're being a little unfair, right? Because I think what's happened here, and I understand criticism that you've made on seasons 1 and 2 of Star Trek Discovery and New Trek under Kurtzman and all that stuff is very valid. There's a lot of I'm in agreement with a lot of the things that you're saying, and it's very fair comment. What I think is happening though with some people that aren't enjoying this is I think that you're carrying too much baggage of that into this season, and you're not. Michelle Paradise and Jenny Lumet, who are writing this. Obviously, Kurtzman gets a credit because he's the showrunner, but we've got to give those guys a chance, because they're trying to course correct this.
Completely, I agree, and I really tried this in this episode. So okay, let's go through the plot of this episode. Right?
Go on, you can go.
Okay, first we have the recap. Excruciating, absolutely, like really
painful.
Pour acid over my face instead. It's just
it didn't help, did it? It didn't help.
And why do they have to show us that they defeated Control, which wasn't an AI, but really wanted to be one, even though that's the definition of sentience? But never mind. Let's not think about this stuff too heavily. And then they defeat it. But let's go to the future anyway, because nothing matters. Nothing matters because it just doesn't matter. So so fine, they get rid of that. Here's what I think is the problem with this show, right? And I really went into it with an open mind. I think it's written. I think Star Trek, much like Doctor Who, much like Star Wars.
It's 7 o'clock. You can get there.
Good luck. Yeah. Star Wars, much like Doctor Who, much like Star Wars, I think works best when you write it for 8-year-old boys, or maybe 12-year-old boys, but I think there's an idea that there is no masculinity and there is no femininity. There's no difference between the two, that everything is interchange, and it's just not the case. I'm sorry, it's just that's the insanity that permeates all of Hollywood, that everything, there is no difference between the genders, and there is a difference between the genders.
I completely agree.
And when you write something for one gender, it's fundamentally different. So this is what I feel is the issue with this Star Trek, that it's feminized Star Trek, and I'm all for there being a feminine sci-fi action adventure. That company I mentioned before, Big Finish, they have a couple of really good ones. They have this one called the
Human Frontier.
Sorry,
I thought you were talking about the Human Frontier. You talked about the Bernie Summerfield.
Oh, Human Frontier as well. No, I was talking about Bernie Summerfield, who's a time traveling archaeologist from the future, right? And there's all these space adventures, and it's very intrinsically feminine, and I really like that show. That series. It's a great series. This one, I just don't think it works as Star Trek, because there's just a lot of it being written for chicks, which is will they crash the ship? Fine, because when you don't know what to do with the ship, you crash it. That's always exciting. Oh crap! And then I just don't need those standing around and hugging and all this affirmation, and there's, once you're red pill to it, you can't not see it. Women always have to be the dominant superior force that save everything. The only males that are safe are males that are non-traditional masculine males, like Saru, which is a great character.
Like this fella. Let's get some a positive box ticked. The secret weapon to Discovery the entire time, right since episode 1, has been Doug Jones. I think he's a fantastic
great costume as well. Fantastic costume, fantastic makeup.
The way he emotes from under that, his body language. This guy is exceptional at his craft. And to be fair, in this particular episode, the evolution of the character, I thought was very, very clear. Was well played by Doug. In fact, they lent on him. They must have known the entire time that they'd never got what they could have done out of this guy. And sure enough, if it wasn't for him, the entire thing would have completely caved in. So that is really, really good. What I was conscious of watching this, though, gentlemen, after 2 and a little bit seasons, I still, and I don't think this is on me, I still have no idea the names of a great many of this.
That's so true. That's so true. You have Robot Chick, you have the black woman, you have the one
girl. I think she's great. She always looks. Even now, I don't know her name. She always plays this role with conviction, but they've never stood still for long enough. I'm sure they've spoken her name, but I don't know who she is.
And it's never stuck with me. She's one of the best characters as well. I think she's a great actress. She has exactly, completely sells it. But the thing was right in the opening minute. The thing with Saru that made him an acceptable male is that he asked for the opinions of what he should do for the red-headed helmswoman, and that because he listened to a woman, that made him kosher. That made him kosher to be a male. And when you don't listen to
some would say that's very cynical because you bridge crew.
Listen, you had Lieutenant Mansplainer from the first episode of season 2, right? Who had the terrible crime of not listening to Michael Burnham, right? The terrible, and what happened is he got blown up. But he was there to be as mansplainer and be blown up for mansplaining. That was his function.
It was horrible. That scene was
quite obvious to do that. I mean, you have that nice scene when he beams in and you see his ear isn't Spock. You're expecting it to be Spock. That was a good spot, but he was so. Yeah, there's this insane sexual politics going on with this show.
This is exactly what I mean, Rabbi. This is exactly what I mean, though. You're carrying that with you. You're carrying that into this.
Again, I'm telling you, I went into this game. I'm gonna see, and it's replete in this episode, over and over and over again. Even Stamets, when he had to change we had to do that repair. Firstly, that repair was something that a chick wrote because she understands. It wasn't a complicated repair. You take the rope out, you put it in. It's like I'm trying to explain to my daughter how to fix a VCR. It's for women to watch and go, oh, I understand that, and I feel technical. I feel good about myself because that's the writers' room. That is this writers' room. It's this.
We have
another writers' room. Sorry,
we have another strong female central character as well in Commander Nahan, played by Rachel Ancherel, who was in the latter episodes of season 2 of Discovery, and seems to be aboard for the duration now. She's the one who shut one of the crew members out of an airlock on the last season. It all seems forgotten now.
I don't remember at all.
Everybody all together. She's in the background there, stood next to Michelle Yeoh.
She's the one with the breathing apparatus.
I only know her name because I looked it up, because you think, okay, welcome to the show. But Keith, do you have any idea of the names of some of these characters? I know it might seem like a surface point, but
no, you're absolutely right. The bridge characters were very underserved in seasons 1 and 2, and I think that is one of the things they're going to change in this season. So, like for example, we got Depna, who's the helmswoman in this. She actually, there's obviously something going on with her, which they're going to pick up on.
Maybe.
Yeah, which I hope that's what it is. I've heard other theories which I don't like the sound of so much.
What's the theory? I haven't heard it.
I've heard a theory that Control has somehow downloaded into her implant that she has, and I really hope that's not the case. I hope that's just a fan theory.
Isn't it?
But in the last season, though, guys, there was a scene. Looking at it, I remember now, probably in the final episode, where we saw her sort of look at a screen while all that was going on and sort of squint as if she was receiving something. So I fear that you're right there, Keith. But Keith, you've disagreed there with the rabbi, and you think he's still bringing too much baggage forward. So why don't you start us off and tell us what you think of this general episode and how they start the action and how it all kicks off when we reconnect with the Discovery crew?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that I really don't think that the writers' room with this is coming at this from a place of misandry. I understand exactly, and I totally respect and appreciate what you guys have said about this. And I always feel, as a sort of white heterosexual male myself, I always find that I always find, oh my God, can I even have an opinion on this stuff? Something somebody pointed out in episode 1 that I didn't even realize until it was pointed out, and I thought, does this make me enlightened or part of the problem? Was the fact that somebody said, oh, it was the first Star Trek that didn't have any white people in it, and I was like, oh yeah. And I hadn't realized that, that first episode.
Yeah, you had the redheaded woman. She's white.
No. Sorry, the first episode. Sorry, the first episode. And I was like, I hadn't even noticed.
Okay, the reason you didn't notice that, Keith, is because you're sane. Because you don't.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed it.
You're not. No, seriously. If you before 2010. Before 2010, did anybody have any problem with somebody's skin color, sexual orientation, religion?
Not that I remember.
Well, people did, didn't they? I mean,
that's the whole reason.
Yeah,
I think he means within popular culture and within.
Within popular culture, people had problems with it. Cisco was repeatedly hit by racists as you can't have a black person. Oh my gosh, yes.
That didn't translate to the UK at all.
Okay, in America, yes. Cisco had to put up with racism left and right.
Off screen, you're talking about from the fan base, not off screen.
From the fan base.
Sincerely, we didn't have any of that time.
I didn't hear a word of it.
I mean, over the decades, where we've changed as a society. I mean, obviously, right back to I know I'm going way back 50 years here, but right back to the original pilot, The Cage, the people running CBS Paramount at the time, they couldn't deal with you know, the fact that there was the number one character because it was a female who was in, you know, second, who was the first officer, and that, you know, so there was sexual inequality at that point, and
they didn't like the fact that she was assertive, did they, Keith?
No, exactly. But you know, I think we've in some respects come a long way and moved along with this, and I totally understand like the argument that a lot of because Hollywood is very aware of these things. A lot of entertainment that is being put out these days definitely has that sort of what they call woke, you know, agenda in much of it. But you know, at the same time, I don't think that what they're doing with Discovery so far in this season is in any way angled. And maybe I'm the naive one. Maybe I'm missing the point, but I don't actually
very early days
see it as an issue. And I understand
our episode. I wish I didn't see it. You know, like I don't want to be seeing this, but like, I mean, everything. Again, I think by having like a 90% female ship without, yeah, I'm fine. If let's say you want to have a 90% female crew. That's cool. Can you just address it in story? Like, what's going on? Like
there are no Caucasian males in the entire crew of the Enterprise that I could see. You know, even Stamets is. I know he's an albino, isn't he?
He's gay. He's okay. He's kosher because he's gay. There isn't any straight white male, which is in the universe.
You know, Star Trek never addressed when the ships were all white men, right? Or 90% white straight men. So why does it need to address when it's 90%?
Okay, because at that point it reflected.
I would agree with that.
This does not reflect the world it's trying to entertain. And you know, in the 60s, there were, you know, there was racism, and there were minorities that didn't have the same right. That 100%. And you know, those episodes, the episodes of "Let This Be Your Last Battlefield," groundbreaking, incredible, breathtaking. But you know, Next Generation, I think Next Generation had a reflection of the society's mix of races and genders. It just did. You know, I honestly, I've been a Star Trek fan. I've been like an avid Star Trek fan. I've never heard in my entire life any Star Trek fan going, it's a bit weird having a black commander. I heard people say they had problems with being a black Vulcan, and that was kind of racist. Okay, and I remember people going at times.
Yes, I remember that at the time too, because I don't think a black Vulcan had been seen before, and it was because their hue, their particular hue, Vulcans, is the makeup job originally. It was sort of like a yellowy green color, wasn't it? Yeah, you know, I could never quite put my finger. Oh, of course, yeah. So I don't even think that was coming from a place of racism, excuse me. But I do remember those conversations being had. So I was genuinely shocked by Pete saying that, because it really didn't transmit in the UK at all, and in the genre magazines.
Yeah, Janeway in the US had lots of flack for being a woman, right? There's all this discussion.
Being just annoying.
No. Well, maybe that's something to think about, right? Like what's annoying, what's bad writing, and what is inherent sort of.
Okay, what's annoying? Her voice. It was just her voice. Her voice was annoying.
So I would you know, say like, well, what makes it annoying? Like what
that didn't stop. Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah.
But back to your
point. Yeah.
But back to your back to your question, Dan, because I appreciate I kind of went off on a bit of a tangent that we've got on now. But this episode, you see, the way I'm looking at it is this is a great setup, a great adventure. I love it. They've got in this episode, they had a massive problem, right? They've got a damaged ship. They've got injured crew members. They've got this, the planet, the hostile planet with this parasitic ice that's going to freeze over the ship if they don't get it done before sunset. You know, they don't know anyone. They don't know what year they're in. They're out of certain technology that they need to repair the ship, etc. So they've got all of these problems, right? They're trying, and Saru, and I like is you've got a great dynamic here, because you've got, this is what Voyager could have been, right? You've got Saru,
I'd agree with that.
Who let's forget gender and ethnicity and everything. He is an alien character, right? Which I think we haven't had an alien captain yet, and I hope this guy's, you know, whether they've been black, white, male, female, young, old, all the captains so far have been human, right? That
did always stand out to me. Yeah,
exactly. So we've got an alien who's hopefully going to be in charge, right? And he's got his team around him, and what is fantastic is he leans on the strengths of Tilly. I agree again, in the previous seasons, Tilly was there for comic relief and she wasn't well used, and they had her winning marathons and stuff, which was ridiculous. I agree.
In the second season, she may as well not have even been there. Yeah,
exactly. But in this one, you know, she's smart. She's a science officer. Yeah. She knows her stuff. She's not confident, and he knows that, but he's leaning on her strengths.
Did you notice as well, Keith? Did you notice, Keith, that because the character hasn't been overwritten in this episode, she, the actress, I can't remember
Mary
her name.
Wiseman.
Mary Wiseman. Yeah. So because I've always thought that she's a decent actress, so because the material was slightly toned down, she responded by giving a bit more of an anchored performance and played off the rest of the cast. I never particularly originally saw her as comic relief, but I thought she was an excessive character. And when they needed something to sort of perk up a scene or an entire episode, they give her something stupid to say or something stupid to do, and say, "Oh, you know, it's because she's." Autistic, or she's, you know, one of these.
Yeah, she's on the spectrum slightly.
She's on the spectrum, which is incredibly, total mishandling of people who are on the spectrum. Speaking as somebody who's raised a child on the spectrum, I know this. But here, I thought she was much better in this second episode, and Doug Jones, they played off each other.
Well, and it's more about her social awkwardness as well, right. and stuff like that.
I never had a problem with Tilly, really.
But also, so you've got Tilly, which is great, but then the other thing, the other counterpoint that makes this dynamic, I think, in terms of storytelling, really compelling and really interesting, is that you've got Georgiou, okay, this is the mirror universe empress, you know, who's in this, and we're going to have crew conflict because of her, right? Because she is the wild card. She's part of Section 31. She isn't actually necessarily part of the original crew of the Discovery. She's a wild card. Okay, there's going to be conflict. This is what the Maquis and Starfleet thing didn't really do particularly in Voyager, but we've got the opportunity to do that, and they seem to be leaning into this. She got
several scenes in this episode, Keith. And I've always liked Michelle Yeoh. I think she's got a hell of a lot of star quality.
She's awesome.
And in the first season of Discovery, in the opening episode, I found her quite compelling. And yet here, as this version of the character, I'm getting the impression that she's kind of out of her depth a little bit. I find some of her scenes.
She's like she's in a different show.
But she is, right? But that's kind of the point.
One thing I can't stand is, again, seeing these like 5'2", 110-pound women knock out 5 really big muscly guys. It's like,
to be fair though, Michelle Yeoh probably can.
I find it more believable with her than the others.
Yeah, I mean, but here's, because she's a martial artist, you know. But here's the thing as well.
Like LaFemme Nikita, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
I liked it then, 20 years ago, but I liked it. But it's relentless now. It's the only type of woman you're allowed to see. It's this insane James Bond superhero. Like, it's like every character has to be this way. No.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing with you, and again, all right, you know, let's Michelle Paradise and her team, because I believe she's sort of running the writing team for this. they're dealing with character. I mean, we've got characters in this that are already back from the dead, essentially. So Giorgio was a captain in the first season, and they kill her off in literally the pilot episode. But then Michelle Yeoh was so great, they wanted to get her back, so they found this sort of mirror universe way of doing it. Culber, they kill last season, but then they bring him back, and he's
character
back to
who was good in season 1, and in the last season, heaven knows what happened to the entire crew of the Discovery.
I'll tell you exactly what happened. It's a thing called, you're not allowed to kill gay characters. No, it's a trap. That's what don't you remember? Everybody freaked out like
they did. You're right. Yes, you are right.
They brought him back. I'm like, why can't we just treat people like people? For God's sake!
They brought him back and did absolutely nothing with him. And the actor, he did his best to sort of perk up bad material. Having said that, I'm not a big fan of that guy who plays him.
Wilson
Cruz. There's something about his performance that I've never particularly liked. But because Anthony Rapp, I think Anthony Rapp's quite good as Paul Stamets, so I do like that character. I think that whatever Wilson Cruz didn't have, he did, that kind of really made me believe and invest in their relationship. So I was disappointed when they killed the character, but not for the reasons that caused an uproar. It's just the fact that I liked seeing them together, and I liked the idea of having a relationship, a committed relationship on a starship, and any show.
Yes, well, I made a comment actually on Let's See What's Out There, which is coming out, which Pete pulled me up on, and he was absolutely right. I kind of said, they had to play the whole Stamets Culber relationship. They, during this crisis, they had to bring that to the forefront for a scene, and I felt they did. But exactly, and Pete pointed out to me, they're trying to pitch this show now for people who may not have seen seasons 1 and 2 and need introductions to these characters, and that was good. Yeah, so I agree that I looked at that in the wrong way. That totally works.
So, Pete, bear in mind what you said earlier on about seasons 1 and season 2 and your journey here. We've just spoken about Tilly, how it seems to be a bit more as she was originally. We've got Culber and Stamets, who their relationship, it's almost like season 2 never happened. Is this an acceptance of what the audience liked originally, what they didn't respond to later on? Do you think that that's a conscious effort, or is this just the way that things work themselves through naturally?
I don't know. I don't know that we'd know that without hearing from the writers, and I try not to read too much during the season. What I will say is that it definitely feels like a complete break from season 2. The characters, like Culber is an entirely different character than where Culber ended in season 2.
Agreed.
And like he's the doctor that you see there is a totally different doctor. Tilly is while still in the same universe, definitely changed. And there's a chance that maybe they're going to say this is all because of the trauma of, jumping 1,000 years in the future and leaving everything they knew behind and being erased from history. But I think that there's whatever the reasons, it's going to play well. They're doing the right move, and that we as an audience base should just look at it as now Discovery is doing its own thing.
It's a show about the far future. It's tasked. I can never say this word. Tasked itself with this clear objective, whether we like it or not, and they're going to go for it. And at this point, as viewers, it's up to us to decide whether we're there or not. It's probably that simple. Whether we commit for the 13 episodes. Going back to the episode itself, I mean, we had more fantastic scenery in Iceland there, some location work in Iceland. But I think the general hook there was sort of hanging it on was, again, something that was fundamentally Star Trek, the hostile environment, and that I think I was looking at it a moment ago, this sort of the Wild West aspect. They tried to play into that a little bit with some success, I suppose. But I don't know how you guys found it.
I mean, listen, I think if they make another 2 or 3 series of this, right, and they keep with the same production team, they don't change it.
Commit to it.
Yeah. I think this is vaguely edging towards something that's going to be a bit more Star Trek by season 5. Like it'll feel a bit like I think they kind of these are just people like learning what Star Trek is essentially, which is a bit weird.
Everything up to now has felt like people winging it, and I don't believe that was I don't believe that was ever what Brian Fuller had in mind for the show when he created it. Let's accept that he created it. We've had several showrunners in and out the door. I mean, from what we hear now, it's rumored that Alex Kurtzman is not involved creatively in Star Trek anymore, that even though his name's on the credits, that he is now firmly at the side as the
Brian Fuller's still a producer as well, isn't he?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Michelle Paradise is the one actually stewarding things, as you said, Keith.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Alex Kurtzman has got this deal with CBS / Paramount, which I believe he's 2 years into a 5-year deal or something at the moment.
Several shows,
and he's quite clearly with Star Trek. They're trying everything at the moment. You know, we've got an adult animated show, we've got a kids animated show, we've got short films, we've got apparently, you know, a Section 31 series and a Pike series, and we've got this, you know, they're trying all sorts of things, right?
There's one thing they're not trying though. There's one thing they haven't tried yet: making good television.
Well, that's where I'm saying no. Come on, that's where I'm saying yes. They're you know, we can say all sorts of things about the management of this, and it's definitely had creative differences, and we don't know the full story, but it's had multiple showrunners in its time, lots of course correction going on, lots of writing that hasn't made any sense at all, like the whole redaction thing, which is ridiculous. I agree, but I just feel that we've got to, or if you're a Star Trek fan, you've got to give this season 3. You've got to give them the benefit of the doubt, and and what they've done with the first 2, in my opinion, I know you don't agree, but in my opinion, these have been 2 great Star Trek. Well, the first one was a great setup episode. This one, in my opinion, was a great Star Trek episode because you had that Western in space thing. It was.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I think the whole like Andromeda setup, the Federation being over, that's clever. The dilithium gone. That's good. All that's very Star Trek-y. All that's very good. But then these kind of good Star Trek-y ideas, which I think do work, are then implemented badly.
I think that is true.
Yeah, like the whole sea serpent thing, eating Burnham and spitting her out last week. It was just stupid. It was just
that did feel like a scene out of Lower Decks, to be fair. It felt like the whole Boimler thing from the first episode.
I think that my problem with this week, you know, just connecting back with the plot, my problem with this week is kind of the same to last week. I found it, my initial interest, Pete, I was hooked, and I was extending the generosity, particularly with Doug Jones there acting his heart out and being the anchor for this, and I was there. But my problem seemed to be more purely the ones of somebody sat on the sofa trying to invest in dramatic television. Pete, it didn't. Despite all these virtues there are some in there, somehow it didn't hold my attention. It seemed to, as it went on, it seemed to be more of, I wouldn't necessarily say a trudge, but it did feel, and I felt this about some of season 2, like I was watching a creative team and writers treading water. It got slower. And this episode was only 43 minutes long. By the 20 to 23 minute mark, I found it starting to seem very, very slow. And I gradually disengaged from it. And I think the longer that they spent in the bar, a lot of the dialogue just wasn't very interesting. In fact, it was quite cartoonish.
We haven't spoken about the character. What's his name? ZV. What was it? The bad guy.
I can't even remember.
Zira.
The white male who is the villain. Yeah, the white male. So listen,
you've got to stop thinking.
Everything fits into this insanity. I'm not the one making this. I'm not the one doing it. It's them. What do you want out of me? Like, well, it seems to me this character, if this character was that person, was this evil, awful person that they want him to be, I think, and he wanted to show his control and dominance over Discovery, he would have either beaten, raped, or murdered probably Tilly. That would have kind of brought Saru in line now, wouldn't it? He would have then gone over, go to Discovery and got everything. Saru wouldn't know what to do at that point, would he?
As a standoff. As a standoff.
He raped Tilly in front of him. He would have got. I think it didn't seem like that was beneath him, did it? So, like,
I think, Rabbi. I think what it is, Rabbi, is that character, that sort of standoff situation. As much as, I mean, Mary Wiseman, she was committing to it. Doug Jones was really trying to sell it. That you didn't believe that they were in any real standoff with any real stakes.
Yeah,
and everything that they were saying about this character was not being borne out by what we were actually watching.
He just killed a guy. What?
Yeah, until that moment. But when that came so late into proceedings.
Wow.
That really did come by that point, guys. By that point, I've got to be honest, I wasn't going to say this. By that point, I was asleep. I nodded off before I had to go back.
The last time The Walking Dead was a good show was when they met Negan, right? And the first thing he does, he kills one of the family. He beats him to death in front of him. That's what that type of character does, right? And that's how he would have been successful.
Pete.
Okay.
Let's help Pete out at least.
Yeah. I just want to ask like a couple of just quick questions. Like, one, have we ever had a Star Trek villain who rapes someone in the first scene when we meet them?
No. No, we haven't. But,
okay, great.
They haven't done that. But again, there are no rules of Star Trek in this. There are no rules of Star Trek in this.
But hold on.
That's not Star Trek.
Because if you're saying like it's not Star Trek, right?
No one cares about the Federation. No one cares about the aspirational future. We're gone. There has been nothing in the last 3 years of Star Trek from Alex Kurtzman that says that is out of bounds.
Am I gathering, Rabbi? I think what you're saying is you wanted some not necessarily literally to rape somebody, but some show of strength that would sell us on this hostile, not just hostile environment, but a hostile culture.
Guys, we had that. Okay, this character came in. All right. Tilly had just been talking with Cal, the alien character who was in the bar. Okay, and he told her a little bit of information about the burn and the fact that he'd always believed in the legend of Starfleet and the Federation, and was he going to be, did she think he would be Starfleet material, etc. And 5 minutes later, or 4 minutes, 3 minutes later, whenever it was, he is killed by Zera in I thought, shockingly horrible way. Okay, and it was really gratuitous.
It was gratuitous. Let me just because it wasn't enough. Sorry, Rabbi, can I just point something out? Yeah. They made that scene deliberately. This is my reading of it. They made that scene, which I went back and watched after I woke up and had to restart it. They made that scene, in my view, deliberately gratuitous because although that scene was there, you don't feel anything because we've only just met the character. I think if it had been Tilly that was under threat, not necessarily of that in particular, but if it was Tilly that was under threat more obviously, more clearly, then we would have felt it considerably more. They knew that, so they threatened this character. We'd only just met him. Star Trek, like all fiction, is rife with characters that they bring in and they put to the sword or whatever immediately, and sometimes it's just to be colourful. And this is the point where I felt that it started to go awry. And although he nicely played that, just like every other scene, every other example of visceral, gratuitous violence in Discovery, they go right for the throat right away for shock value, and it feels unearned, and it doesn't, and it hasn't got any of the.
They also did about thing. What is this guy's goal? This guy's goal is he's a terrible criminal. There is a treasure trove like no other treasure trove in the galaxy over, that he's just right for the taking. All that dilithium, right for the taking. He would do whatever he needed to do to get that. He wouldn't, again, okay, they want to say Michelle Yeoh is the emperor from the Mirror Universe. She could get the drop of that. I would say fine. But, like, I didn't see
it was always obvious that Giorgio was going to turn up.
Like, I didn't think him thinking through what he wanted, and he wanted discovery. So sorry.
So Pete, we both interrupted you. Sorry.
So what I'm going to say is that in the build up there, which maybe you missed, was that Cal talks about how his 3 brothers were killed by this guy, right? Okay. And Cal is the only one who is connecting with Tilly and Saru. Yeah, and so when Cal dies, I felt that because it was like they had started to bond. They had started to build this hope.
Right. You felt it. You felt it, but that wasn't. You're not thinking like the character. What did that do for the character? The character.
I can tell you exactly. I can tell you exactly what it did for the character.
Character. The character
I can't.
needed to like completely break the people from Discovery instantly because he needs to, and that's not going to do it by killing somebody they don't know.
I completely disagree because
bring in a red shirt if you have to. But bring somebody you don't know. It's not going to do it.
Let Pete say it. Come on, Pete.
It does it because it has been established that Cal character is the character who helped them, right? And so what the bad guy does there is isolate the people from Discovery. I don't think he's going to kill the only 2 people that he met there right off the bat, because killing someone that you need something from is a bad way of getting it. But isolating them in the future with no support network is a great way to subjugate them. And so that's what he does. He isolates them. He drives the wedge between them. And he's already proved that it's something that he's willing to do because he's killed all the brothers.
To subjugate them. A better way to subjugate them will be to kill them and wait for the ice to destroy the ship, then go and take the lithium with no resistance. That's a much better way, and that's kind of what he would have done.
Because then you're saying the ice has destroyed all of the value.
No, he just wanted the lithium.
Yeah, how are you going to get the lithium out of parasitic ice?
Well, everything else doesn't matter.
Keith, you got to take on this.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this whole thing, this whole setup, this whole story, this whole beat here in the plot is pure Star Trek. Okay, I really think it is.
On paper, I think it is.
Because we've had the whole Western saloon thing in all flavors of Star Trek, from the original series through to Enterprise. They've had their Western episodes, and this guy played by Jack Weber, by the way, the actor playing Zira here. Okay, he is your sort of typical moustache twirling villain. I agree. There's not
nothing
much
wrong with that.
there, but exactly. But Star Trek has always had that. That's the point. So it works. It works, and I think the setup, like Pete said, he was setting the stakes for this, and he was winning. If it hadn't been for Giorgio turning up, like I said, the wild card, Giorgio turning up, they would have had to, give this guy what he wanted. And he's a courier. He does the same job essentially as Book. Only this guy's moral compass is in a different place.
They deliberately put those characters. They juxtapose those 2 characters dramatically. I think all the problems that I'm having with this particular episode, on paper, I think I agree with everything you've said, and I think that it is open to interpretation. Just as Pete and the Rabbi there, we're both selling their sides to it really quite well. But personally, from my point of view, the problems I'm having with it that weren't necessarily there for me last week, I think, I'm not sure why, are in pace and presentation, and the fact that I lost interest. I have to put that on them. a lessening somehow at the point that we were supposed to accept that danger was escalating. I actually felt that it was just
right,
staying really quite static.
I felt
so it's only and so whilst your fix of that, Rabbi, I think that's a very clear one and a demonstrable one that would absolutely have got you there. Would it? What I suppose what Pete is saying is,
I'll be complaining about if they did what I said. It would be awful, and I will be I'll be screaming on my head. It'll be terrible. I would listen. Yeah. I'm not advocating for them to do that, but I would be very upset if they did do that.
Fix.
But that's what would have. In this what they're setting up, that's what would have done the trick. That's what this character would have done. I think he went down a bit too easy, and I don't think he was villainous, enough. And quite frankly, the whole thing with the ship was being destroyed, and it's like they got all these insurmountable problems. Like at the beginning of the episode, they got to fix every light bulb by hand or something, right? They got to do everything, and then 42 minutes later, we're all fine.
But again, I agree. Whereas that is not realistic in any way, shape, or form. I get that, but that's Star Trek. How often?
No.
Next Generation, Wesley would save the ship.
Yeah,
in the 11th
hour. But they didn't do that. Normally, they have to think that way. They have to how do they get out from the ice? They said, well, let's just ram the engines really fast. There was no trying to work out how to heat up the ship, get rid of it. No, it was just it was made by people who don't really understand science and like science. In other words, chicks. Basically, chicks. I hate to be they're the ones who put this out there. It's so freaking loudly. How can we not freaking tell you this? And I just want to be clear. I just want to be clear. Obviously, there is no gender block to somebody going into science or engineering. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about generalities of the genders.
I kind of think you said it.
No, generality. Okay, when given complete freedom of choice and choice and opportunity, do women generally go to STEM subjects? Yes or no?
No, that's proven by stats. But
why is that? Is that sociological conditioning, or is that a difference, or is that an intrinsic difference?
No, all figures do support that. Yeah, he's absolutely right. But I think it's almost irrelevant.
I was going to say I don't. Again, we had a great in terms of I was saying about the setup. We had Tilly, we had Saru, and we had Giorgio as the counterpoint. The other thing that this episode did that was fantastic, that was pure Star Trek, is we had Stamets and we had Reno, and they had banter. Okay, yes, they had a Dr. McCoy, Mr. Spock type of banter going on, and they fixed the problem between them. They both contributed to fixing the ship, and again,
they're both in physical pain.
Yes, are you telling me Stamets? The scientist and engineer Stamets doesn't know how to change the light bulb, which essentially. Are you trying to tell me why did Reno need to tell how to
Because his brain was scrambled like an egg.
No, it's because
out of a coma.
No, because his brain was scrambled like an egg, like they said.
Pete's right. They did bed that into the drama, though, Rabbi. They did bed that into the script.
I understand that, but the real reason is the writers' room is intrinsically sexist. They cannot stand traditional normative male sexuality or masculinity, and therefore, in this show, you will never ever see a traditional normative male fix a problem without a female helping it. And once you say, just show me an example when
it happens too often for it to be a coincidence. I would agree with that. But going back to what Keith was just, I completely agree. But going back to what Keith was just saying, I think that an admirable target for this episode was to bring together these characters as I won't use the word family, but as a team who are supportive of one another and who can make up for one another's weaknesses with their own strengths, help and bond to achieve their common goal, which is something that we'd seen in previous Star Trek teams, crews, bridge crew, and lower decks people to make something feel like Star Trek again. And that has been lacking in most of Discovery. I don't think that was a deliberate choice. I think it was down to changing of tides and changing of creatives and paths and things like that. But I think it is something that it has to be accepted now, that it's a box that actually does need to be ticked to be not just worthy of the name Star Trek, but to actually feel like a Star Trek show and to be entertaining, and for the audience to commit to this group of characters and the jeopardy that they find themselves in. I think that's something that needed to happen. It shouldn't have taken this long. It's something that this episode, they knew they had to get that sorted out this early, hopefully to springboard into the rest of the season, Keith.
Well, yeah. Listen, it did kind of like nosedive to it in the last 3 minutes because Burnham showed up with her like just insane act, like what, like what, like she looks like she's been
like an angel,
like an angel for a year. She's been looking for them for a year.
That's not the expression of somebody who's been searching for a year. Like, you know, that's somebody who's been searching for 5, 10, 20 years, not somebody who's like her reaction is of somebody.
We don't know what she's been through yet, though, Rabbi, do we? We don't know what's happened in that year.
Exactly, and we won't find out until The Hope Is You Part 2 next season. Trust me.
So, Pete, when the ice started to break, and then the blue shaft of light came from above, and the Discovery starts to sort of be dragged up by this anonymous tractor beam at that point, were you cheering at that point, Pete?
No, because, you know, they'd set it up that this was going to be even worse, right? That this was somebody else coming to destroy the ship.
They did, yeah.
Right? And so I was like, oh, I was still in it. Like, what's going to happen? Who is it?
Oh, I knew it was Burnham. I knew
I've got to agree with the Rabbi on that one. I unfortunately wasn't surprised in the slightest when Burnham appeared on the view screen. But I agree that they were trying to set it up to be a big bad or a bigger bad or whatever. But I personally, I did see that coming. But
pace and presentation. We were feeling one thing, they were saying another. But obviously, Pete, you don't feel that way. You were on the pace.
I was in it. I also like watching the Burnham things. I was not convinced that was actually Burnham. I was like, oh, is this still another trick? You know?
And
wouldn't that be interesting if it is?
It would.
If what? Sorry.
Yeah.
If it wasn't Burnham, it's a trick. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah, but it's not. That's too interesting. It's not. That's no.
Yeah.
The sort of trick that would happen is that crappy looking ship that Burnham's in is going to break into 100 different parts and then become an AI that will then try and eat somebody's face. They'll just go for these like dramatic moments, right?
I worry that they are going to go down the AI route again, since you've mentioned control.
I really
hope they don't. I hope it stays human.
I have to admit, you know, for all my optimism and praise of these first 2 episodes, my only fear is that they're not going to stick the landing with this. I think that the way they've set this up and the way they framed it, they have the potential to save Star Trek and make some really compelling television. They've got that opportunity, and they've made 2 good, in my opinion, 2 good steps towards it. And I just hope that they keep this up. I really hope that they don't turn it into some stupid sci-fi explanation with Detner or whatever. I hope that they make it about the consequences of what this crew has done by jumping, you know, nearly 1,000 years into the future, and that's what I want, and I can't say I'm 100% confident that's what we're going to get, but that's my hope.
I want it too. I really do. I want it just for you more than anything else. Honestly, I want you.
Here's a question, guys, because I have a few problems. I agree with what you've just said, Keith. About I think there should be a sturdy start on going somewhere else and hopefully delivering something that, when at the end of the 13 weeks, at least feels literate and worthwhile, and like we've been somewhere that's nourishing in some way, and been told some sort of overall arc that generally uplifts us in some way. But I did feel watching this that the balance of the first and the second episodes was it could have been more. In fact, I would have probably gone with this as the first episode and had little seeds of Burnham maybe being there before them. I'd have dotted those on the planet's surface. I'd have switched it around. I think that seeing the series without Burnham for an episode would probably have done it the world of good.
Yeah,
I think they could have rolled out the drama in a slightly different way, in a more Star Trek-y way, and attract some of those people who, like you say, with the new logo and all the collars and cuffs things that do matter, but down to it, depend on who you are and how you receive things. They could have sort of started it again. This is a brand new Star Trek show, but here's your starship. This is your crew. This is them banding together against adversity.
Yeah,
and then I would have brought in Burnham slowly along the side, and then
I agree with that. One of the things, and I said this on the previous episode of Let's See What's Out There, when me and Pete were talking predictions and stuff, which we do. I was saying that I was kind of hoping narratively that Discovery and Burnham weren't going to meet up for some time, and we would get a Burnham episode and a Discovery episode and a Burnham episode, or we'd have several Burnham episodes and then Discovery or whatever. But obviously, from the looks of it, narratively, they're not going to do that.
It could have had what Pete was saying.
If I was show running, that's how I would have probably done it. But there you go.
It could have had a lot of what Pete was saying about that run of Enterprise that you enjoyed so much, couldn't it, Pete? What's your take on this and how they've chosen to start it with this effectively two halves of the same?
Yeah, I think I think it's great. I think it was fun to see them separately. I think that I'd be totally open to them not meeting up so quickly, and it being more like he said of a back and forth, and we see the two separate. But I do think that it is that we're done with that. that now
it does seem that way.
Yeah,
well, we've only got 13 episodes.
We've only got 13 episodes.
Only.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought Picard needed 13 episodes. Picard they did in 10, and to me they could have done with another 2 or 3 episodes to finish that off properly. It wasn't good. So yeah.
So yeah, we're at the finale, and Burnham shows up. I mean, it was like we've talked about how each of us sort of received that differently, but I mean, bringing the character, that big smile on her face, they're all so pleased to see one another.
Yeah, what really? Why is she the best ever? Why is she good at everything, needed for everything, and everybody loves her?
I think
I love her.
At this point, though, Rabbi, we are centuries
crazy.
I suppose, Rabbi, though, at this point we are several centuries into the future.
Exactly.
These are the only people that each other know. There's only, did Tilly say at some point there's only like 80 odd members of the crew?
88. There are 88 members of the crew that jumped that time, and
for all
they're forgotten to history. So
and for all they knew, they could be the only less than 100 humans left. For all they know, they don't. I think doesn't Burnham knows that she's as far in the future as she is, but I don't know as the Discovery crew do yet. Did I? I could have been asleep.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that's one of the things that if I had to nitpick this, because obviously I've given it a lot of praise, but if I had to nitpick it, one of the things that they didn't try and ascertain when they went into the saloon, and I understand it's because they didn't know who they could trust or whatever, but nobody really tried to sort of find out exactly when they were. And I know that obviously Saru said they had to be very careful about saying where they're from, etc. But I don't know whether they actually know what year they're in yet. I'm not sure.
No. it's still all to play for, and the setup next week, I would imagine whatever is in place next week will probably stay relatively the same for the following 10. And I know what you're saying about Michael Burnham, Rabbi. I mean, I've gone like that with this character. I mean, I think that Sonequa Martin Green means well. I think they could have had as a leading lady. I think she's a good choice, in fact. But
could have been good. Listen, I like the first 10 episodes of the first season. I even like Harry Mudd. I
loved it. Yeah, but it's going somewhere where I'm still not particularly interested in rebuilding the Federation and dystopias. I wish I was interested in that, but I'm trying to sort of take it as it is, week by week, whatever they present to me in piecemeal form, and judge it purely as that, week on week, because it's going there whether I want it to or not. We'll see where we are at the end of the season, and as you were saying, Rabbi, where they are, because it seems like there's going to be successive seasons of this. Alex Kurtzman was saying it was up to 7 seasons.
Well, and they could do that with how they've set this up. I mean, that's. I mean, you said you're not. I'm surprised you're not intrigued to want to know. What happened exactly. I mean, we just got a brief explanation about the burn and all this stuff, but what happened and how they're going to.
Because at the moment it sounds like mumbo jumbo, just so they could tell a dystopian story. That's why I'm not invested in it. And dystopian stories with Star Trek. Not only do I'm not that interested generally, but I do feel like they're already doing that on Picard. So I don't know why they're presenting it to us. And they did that with earlier seasons of Discovery. So do we really have to be there again? What does interest me about the potential for Discovery is that we could spend a season or 2 tops in the far, far future, then potentially this is a black ops starship that officially doesn't exist. It could go anywhere. It could go sideways into parallel universes. It could go back into the past again. It could go anywhere, and they could do all manner of wonderful things with it.
That's actually a very good point. There's no dilithium, right? Which is a catalytic reactor for warp drive. Why don't they just get a Romulan ship which doesn't use the dilithium, I believe? They use as a warp singularity. Go back in time and get some dilithium. Like, go back a couple of thousand years before, and then we'll get load up and fine again. Like, why not?
Maybe because they ban time travel.
That'll do it. Fine, yeah. So let's say if they ban oil and you need to go and buy some milk for your baby, you're gonna go. Well, they banned it. Guess not. Then guess we're all just gonna die. Yeah, no.
Maybe.
Well, maybe that's why they had the temporal Cold War.
Yeah, in fact, wouldn't it be great if it ties in with that? Because again, there's an opportunity here. In Star Trek Enterprise, the character that came from the far future called Daniels, came from a century before this. He came from like the 31st century or whatever.
And you know, does that Enterprise look like a starship from the future in Enterprise? They didn't look like a bit of a wing. It actually looked like a starship. It had a saucer section.
Do you think, Pete? Do you think, Pete, that what Keith's just said about the centuries? Do you think that's a deliberate thing that they've done? Moved it past even the temporal Cold War?
Yeah, I think so.
I would think so. Right? That it gives them. I don't think that they could have told, because I do agree that they're trying to tell a rebuilding story. Right? They're
Star Trek Brexit.
Well,
no, that was Picard.
That is Picard. I was going to say that they're telling Star Trek Walking Dead, which is funny because it's Sonequa Martin Green. But
there you go. Yeah.
And if it is Star Trek Walking Dead, you can't tell that story in anything connected to Star Trek, right? Because it doesn't make sense. You have to go outside of that timeline. When we're saying, listen, it could be good, but I want you to try and imagine this. Imagine like a show like a Emily Bronte show. Emily Bronte was you make girly shows, but you make it like that it's got a mostly male cast, and they're Marines and they're fighting zombies, right? And so you got the traditional female audience for Wuthering Heights, right?
and they go, well, maybe next season will be good. Maybe they'll have less zombie killing and men with machine guns. Maybe they'll do that later. Could be. They could decide to do it. I wouldn't put any money on it. I certainly wouldn't hold your breath for it to happen. Listen,
but hold on. So it's like the connection there, right? That I want to like zero in on is that there's a presupposition there that Star Trek is a male entertainment, and that's what it needs to be.
Yes, there is.
Right.
Up until now, it has been, and it's worked.
I completely disagree.
How do you completely disagree?
Because Star Trek is...
you can be masculine and have equality. It can be masculine and have strong female characters. It can be... But again, listen, Star Wars, take Star Wars, for example. They basically make or Doctor Who. They basically make Star Wars and Doctor Who for 12-year-old girls now. It's not very successful. Why is it not very successsul? Because 12-year-old girls aren't really into this stuff. 12-year-old that's just the reality of the universe that we live in.
Rabbi, so let's find out why Pete disagrees with that.
I want to just take one quick step back because I don't want to talk about Doctor Who. I'm not an expert. I'm not a Star Wars fan. I want to go Star Trek. Star Trek has always been a show that everyone can watch. It is not a show for men. It is not a show for women. It is a show for a family to come in and watch.
Demographics? It's a show that made for anybody to watch. What would the demographics?
It doesn't like.
It does matter.
Why?
What would the demographics? It was made for anybody to watch. What would the demographics?
Everybody watched it, as far as I can concern.
The demographics were it skewed male. It just did. Listen, I watched it. My wife liked it, but my wife wouldn't have watched it if I didn't have it on. And that's the thing. It's a show. Yeah, it's a show that your girlfriend can watch with you and kind of enjoy. Oh, no. And it's still the reality. I know it's painful.
It's going to get you in hot water, but you might be right. I know so many Star Trek fans who are women. I'm more.
Okay, 100%. Because the generalities are one way doesn't mean we don't have thousands of female Star Trek fans, and there's anything wrong with being a female Star Trek fan. But normally female Star Trek fans like it to be Star Trek-y, which means it's got to be not a chick show.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. You're talking
but
about.
I don't think this is. Oh.
But this wasn't a chick show at all, was it?
The only thing that
do you think
it was less? This is a lot less than season 2 was. I would agree.
Yes, it was less of a chick show than that. They're getting the idea. I agree with you. Yes.
Pete, let's give Pete the final word.
It was less Grey's Anatomy this week. Yeah, I agree with you.
Pete, what's your final word on this one, mate?
My final saying here is that, oh gosh, I don't know if this is going to help my argument at all, right? But I have 3 daughters who at various times have walked in, and I apologize, but I have 3 daughters, and I have tried to show them all of the different Star Treks. I have tried to show them Star Wars to see if that would interest them. And none of it has stuck or interested them to the point where they don't know the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. But I put on episode 2 and asked my 15-year-old daughter if she wanted to watch, and it stuck with her. And so here's the thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. Right? Because why can't there be a Star Trek that they enjoy? Why can't and I enjoy it too?
And so it's a bad thing.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But that's coming at the cost of a lot of little boys not sitting and watching it.
But
I think that a show that anybody could come in and watch. It's alienated. It's alien. Like boys are not really interested in this show.
I would only if I wasn't enjoying it, then I would kind of agree with your argument. But I'm a fan of Star Trek since I was that little 6 or 7-year-old boy, whatever, and idolized Kirk and whatever at the time, and I've grown up with it, and I've always enjoyed Star Trek. And I agree that, I had massive issues with Discovery seasons 1 and 2. I'm not going to say that I didn't. I didn't enjoy Lower Decks. We've had, conversations about that on this podcast or this vodcast already. But these first 2 episodes have been the Star Trek that I want. This is what I wanted Voyager to be. This is great.
I'm genuinely happy for you. I'm not sure if it really is that Star Trek, or if it's because look, this is how I feel with my main love. I think is Doctor Who. I found out through YouTubing that my main love genuinely is Doctor Who, and I am ready to sit through Doctor Who and want to love it. Even though it's been awful, I push myself harder, and my desire to love it, my love for it is so much that I will I excuse so much to find something to hook onto. So listen, I might be completely wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong, and I'm genuinely happy you're liking it.
I don't think anybody's right or wrong, Rabbi. I really don't think anybody's right or wrong. I think that it's probably somewhere between me watching this perhaps through slightly rose-tinted spectacles because I love Star Trek and I want Star Trek to be good and I love Star Trek, and you may be watching it through, forgive me for saying, but slightly cynical spectacles, because and it's probably this is a very Star Trek diplomatic answer here, but it's probably somewhere in between, right?
But they would never have that in Discovery, would they? Oh, now
Rabbi,
Star Trek again.
Rabbi, you gave what? Rabbi, you gave last week's opening episode 4 out of 10 warp factors. What would you give this one?
I'll give this one more because the lack of Burnham can't be underrated. The lack of Michael Burnham is not something that should be improved. I'm going to give this. Let me think. I'll give this a 5.5. I'll give it a 5.5. Which is, I'm amazed I got that high.
Keith, how about you? What would you score this one?
Well, I mean, there's always room for improvement, and but I enjoyed it so much. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, wow. And I'll counter that by saying I'll take the point off because Berman wasn't in it.
Well, I'm gonna drop mine down to a 5 as well. I didn't enjoy this one quite so much, even though I think there was a certain amount of virtue and good intent and Doug Jones and everything else. So yeah, it stepped down for me, I'm afraid. But Pete, how about you? You got the final vote.
I think that in my heart, this is an 8 out of 10. It is very good. I think what keeps it from being perfect is maybe my fear of where the story is going to go. That it's going to go to that AI world, or they're not going to engage on this theory that they've set up.
Yeah, it needs to be on a human level, doesn't it? The human adventure. That tagline from the motion picture. If they connect back with that, I feel they've done. Like you say, they've done Mirror Universe. They've done AI. I don't want to see that done again.
I just wish they would they would let people make fan films again. I really miss those fan films. Because say what you want, and there were some ropey ones. Say what you want about them, they felt like Star Trek. They got
heart. They got heart, Rabbi.
Yeah. Star Trek Continues is particularly good, and but the one thing, I mean, I know we've disagreed on a lot of stuff here, Rabbi, and I know
a great episode, a great conversation,
and we're good friends. That it's all done in a nice way. But one thing I absolutely agree with you on, and I wish they would do this, is Big Finish audio productions. I'm not into Doctor Who, as you know, but they've done some Blake 7 ones that have been absolutely incredible, and I would love it if they did if they were somehow able to do Star Trek Enterprise or Star Trek Enterprise season 4-5 would be amazing.
So much. I will buy all that up. So I will.
Nick Briggs, if you're watching, if you're listening, You know the rabbi. You've already had a conversation with Nick.
I think they will take that license if they could get it. Okay, I don't think they would turn it down.
I've heard him say actually on his podcast, him and Benji Clifford talk about it, and he says that's the one thing they would dearly, dearly love to do. He did say original series Star Trek specifically. But I think that getting their hands on any Star Trek would be a major, major get for them.
Yeah,
and I would imagine CBS wouldn't be receptive to that idea at present. I mean, originally Blake 7, they couldn't get Blake 7. B7 Media wanted to do it on their own, and the original, they put out some audios on their own, which were fine, but they weren't Big Finish fine. Maybe one day CBS will come to the party with Big Finish, and we might get something. I don't know.
Well, they've got Space 1999 they're doing now, which is kind of like British Star Trek. Do you ever see Space 1999?
It's near enough.
You want to check that?
That was before Pete's time, I think. But yeah,
was it? When was it?
The mid 70s.
Oh yeah. No, I was born 1980. Sorry, boys.
Well, that about wraps it up for us this time. Pete, I do hope you've enjoyed yourself. I know it's been a colourful experience at Warp Drive.
I'm always happy to talk Star Trek. It is my most favorite thing in the world to do. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Good man. And if you may have agreed with everything that Pete said, you think, God, that man's talking sense at last. Somebody talking sense on Warp Drive.
No one's ever thought that. Yeah.
Let us know in the comments section what you think about what Pete's been saying. And yes, or some of our other theories that some of the rabbis' points there, very, very viable. And let's be honest, a lot of it, we can point to examples of all of that. But if you fiercely disagree, let us know in the comments section too. Same with everything that Keith said. And you can find links to the descriptions of your podcast. Keith, let's see what's out there. He's very much back. That's firing on all thrusters at the moment, isn't it? Both Pete and Keith, main hosts on that. When's the next one drop, boys?
Probably later tonight, tomorrow. When does this go out?
Very, very soon. In the future.
Yeah. So it'll be a couple of shortly.
It's all happening. And the Rabbi, it's going to be a big old week on your channel. It's always a big week.
It's always a big week on my channel. Here we go. Thankfully, Jodie Whittaker, the plays Malay Doctor, gave an interview. Oh, yeah, thank you.
At least 4 or 5 videos out of that one, mate. Let's go.
We'll find out what happens. I've done the first one, and it's a doozy. We love it.
Yeah, please, everybody. If you're still here this late in the day, I hope you've liked this video. Like and subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss what's coming next. There's more Warp Drive. There's more Doctor Who. We've got a big Doctor Who event coming up. And there's more of this. This has been very, very successful. Very happy with the reception to Teleporter Blake 7 podcast. We're just a fortnight away from episode 2. All you people out there asking for more of Blake 7. Why is it only once a month? Well, it's only once a month for a very, very good reason. But who knows? We'll see how that goes next year. Love how well that's going down. So thank you. But that's on the Spacebook channel too, along with the Spacebook Listed. We've just spoken about E.T. Keith was in for that. And Type Over 40, which is myself and Simon Horton talking about K9 on Doctor Who. So expect more of that in the coming weeks and months. Whew, that about covers it, everybody. Yes, I hope you'll both come back in a few weeks' time.
Thanks so much for having me.
And maybe we can get you guys on our show at some point as well.
I just saw Inner Fear
Sounds like fun.
Go through. He gave a full Michael Burnham wide-eyed like. You covered it very well, Pete. You covered it very well. I'm very impressed.
No. I was just thinking, what topic would we go on? I'm going to look up all the women in STEM research papers I can find.
Oh, I have to tell you. Look. My niece is like a graduate of Cornell. She's reinvented the battery for nanorobots. I couldn't be more proud of her. It's nothing. Okay, you got to look at the generalities of human beings to understand what human beings are like. And there's nothing wrong saying that if you're this type of person, you like this thing better, and if you're that type of person, you like that thing. There is nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong saying that genders are fundamentally different, because the genders are fundamentally different. That's not to say one is superior to the other. Absolutely not. But they are fundamentally different.
Yeah, I think where we take a difference is that if somebody's writing on a Star a science fiction show, we can't assume that they are not interested in science and don't understand mechanics.
No, you can't
based on their gender.
You can't assume it. You can watch it and you can say, "Oh, well, that's pretty bloody obvious from what you just wrote." Have you just written Sonar in Space? You might not be too into science, really.
Yeah.
I want to do an AI that's not an AI that wants to be an AI. You might be a moron that don't know what you're talking about. In fact, you're the ones who are writing it and putting it on freaking television.
I'll pass that one. I think I'll pass that one to the comment section now. But that is all we've got time for now. Thank you for joining me, gentlemen, and thanks to you for watching. Join us again soon for more on Warp Drive. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.